My least favorite kind of cheese strat is freezing the wave. My favorite kind of cheese strat is picking Teemo and going invis in the middle of mid lane, and then when my mid laner shows up, popping out and killing the guy, and then teleporting top. That's the best cheese strat, I think. Definitely works every time. Definitely effective, I'm sure. Why doesn't Riot balance the game at the optimized level? Like the same way that Aphelios and Lee Sin are balanced for all champions? Don't all players stay pretty competitive and want to learn the competitiveness of their champ at its most optimized level? Is it important most champs' win rates stay around 48 to 53? So I personally don't agree completely with the exact win rate take. The idea that the game is like optimally balanced when all the characters win a very tight band of win rates. The take though that I think about is the idea that like you should balance the game for all your players. And so throwing win rates out the window, there's a certain level of power that Master Yi will reach where he is unacceptable to play against in Silver, as an example. And historically, it's not always been true, but historically, Yi reaches that level of power in Silver before he is viable in Challenger. And again, depends on tuning, depends on like the current state of the game, but there are characters like Yi or Garen who historically, they get to a certain level of power, they become just totally oppressive in Silver before they're viable in Challenger. And on the flip side of things, there's characters like Azir who get to a level of power where they're totally oppressive in Challenger before they're viable in Silver, right? And so the question here is like, well, shouldn't you just balance every character like Azir because the game is competitive and aren't the players who play it competitive and they want to learn the complexities of their champ at its most optimized level? There's a few things going on here that's important to note, okay? One is not all players are competitive. It turns out that not everybody plays ranked, and for the people who do play ranked, not everybody is playing ranked to reach Challenger. It turns out for a number of people who play League of Legends, even if they're playing competitively, they're playing the game to enjoy certain things. And what one player might enjoy might be different than another, right? So what one player might enjoy about a character like Garen, being straightforward, is very different from another player who plays Yasuo and enjoys like a highly skill expressive, high APM gameplay fantasy, right? And so the idea that all players would enjoy, in quotes, getting good, and knowing that their champion is balanced for Faker and therefore it is balanced for them, is a little off base, for starters. A number of players, like, they look at Pro and they think about how the game is played, but they're also looking at the games they're experiencing, and the game they're experiencing is a bit different than the game Faker might experience, right? And so the advocacy I will often have when talking about this is, it is important the game is balanced for all players. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that every character is balanced for every player, but it means that the game is balanced in such a way that when you go into a game in Silver, you can have a fairly decent experience without certain things destroying it. And when you go into a game in Challenger, you can have a fairly decent experience without certain things destroying it. And this is important. I think a lot of people understand why that's important in Challenger, because that's the optimized level of the game, right? If Draven's a problem in Challenger, we should probably nerf him, and a lot of players probably wouldn't argue with that because they'd be like, well, yeah, if the best players in the game can't deal with this character, then yeah, you should nerf it, right? Like, that one makes sense, right? But the flip side of that, if Yi is a problem in Silver, we should probably nerf him. I think sometimes people have a harder time understanding. And one of the big reasons for it is the average player makes up the majority of your player base. And a game that is not fun for the average player probably isn't going to last very long. And that game, like, the core of its player base will start falling out and falling away. And that affects everybody. It doesn't just affect the Silver players, it also affects the Challenger players, because you gotta start somewhere, right? Like, the game is built around its core player base, and then as they play the game and grow and get better at it, they move up on the ladder, right? And so it's important, basically, to me, and that the game is balanced for everyone, which is why we don't necessarily tell silver players when they lose to Master Yi to get good. We tell them that to some degree, because again, Master Yi, I'm using Master Yi as an example, but like modern League, he might not be the one. Maybe Briar is a better one. Yeah, it's like Briar, she's very powerful in Lonomar, right? And to some degree, we do tell you to get good if you're playing in Silver against Briar, because Briar is meaningfully stronger in Silver than she is in Challenger. And so there is a degree when you're playing against Briar where if you're in Silver, she is very likely to be a legitimately strong champion. And if you're in Silver, one of the ways you can deal with her is to get better. But there's a limit, right? We don't just say, okay, well, since you're not good enough to beat Briar, she's going to win 60% of her games down there, right? Or just be really, really, really powerful. We try to keep it within a limit to some degree. And we think that's pretty important. Everybody who plays your game deserves to enjoy it to some degree, I would say. And so how that expresses itself in the balance strategy is we have two like general, like basic, like bounding rules for characters. One is that no character should be overpowered in any given player bracket. So this is like if Garen is OP in Silver, we'll nerf him for Silver. If Azir is OP in Pro, we'll nerf him for Pro. If Draven is OP for Challenger players, we'll nerf him for Challenger players. So that's one of that is no character should be overpowered for any given player bracket. And the second thing is, ideally, every character is powerful for at least one group of players. So the flip side of this is, if Azir is balanced around Pro play and he's not in Pro play, we probably should buff him. If Garen is balanced around Silver play and he's not that strong in Silver play, we should probably buff him. And so that's the other side of it, is you make sure characters aren't broken in any player bracket, but you also make sure characters are at least good for some number of players. Somewhere that they're good. And again, some characters get to be good everywhere, right? Like some characters, it's just in terms of how their kits work and how they're tuned, like they're going to be strong Pro through Silver, just up and down the ladder. Other characters behind their kits work are going to be skewed towards the bottom of the ladder, and other characters behind their kits work are going to be skewed towards the top, and like that's okay. You ugly AF. I mean, dude, I already know that. Why do you think I wear this hat? It's to distract you from how ugly I am. Instead of looking at my ugly face, you look at this instead, and you're like, oh, that's so cute. It works. Trust me. You should try it sometime when you stream.